So ACRES, if you don't know what it stands for, is Agricultural Community Resources for Everyday Sustainability. It's a big mouthful. But basically we're a student farm and we're also a club at the university. So we're kind of a weird thing. We're a club during the school year that's run by students and volunteers, and they have officers who run the club and work out fundraising, getting ready for the growing season. Then in the summer they hire interns who are paid interns who work at the farm and do all the production in the summer. And we mainly distribute our produce in two ways. We have a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So if you haven't heard of that, there's one or two of them around town. But it's where farms have people in the community buying a share in the beginning of the season. So they pay up front and they pay a bulk sum of money, and then every week for the season they come pick up their share or their basket of produce. So it's like a bountiful basket or something like that, where you come and pick it up every week. And then we're also at the farmers market on Fridays downtown. So we try to, believe it or not, it takes money to run a farm, so even though we're just a club, we still are a business as well, and we make our money by selling the produce that we grow. And our advisor is Ursula Norton. You may know her. She's in the agroecology department, and also Chris Hilger is guides us and everything. If we have a question about anything, we come to him. So we have a lot of support from the School of Ag, but we also do a lot of hard work thanks to our volunteers and our interns. So I can show you what we've been working on this summer if you want to follow me up north. So we've got several different outdoor fields. When the farm started about 10 years ago as a student project, they only had, I believe it was just that middle field. And then, so that was in around 2006, so a couple years later they started to get some of these high tunnels in, which have really helped with production over the years. So as you can see, we've got one large high tunnel up here, and then we have 5 smaller ones up north. So we have names for our different fields. This is the south field, which is half apples, and then we've got a variety of different things. Since we're connected to the agroecology department, I was an agroecology major, so we do a lot of crop rotation, intercropping, and we try to focus on soil health and conservation. So we do till with our trusty tractor Sally over here. We love her so much, and she breaks all the time, but we somehow get her to work every spring when we need to till our fields. So we normally try to use organic practices. We're not certified because of our proximity to the research station. It wouldn't be possible even if we wanted to because of drift or whatnot. So we're not organic, but we use a lot of organic fertilizers. We use fish emulsion, and one of our big things that we do to build up the organic matter in our soil is we make compost. So we do that year round, and if you want to come up here and check it out, we've got a couple older piles here. Sorry about all these weeds. Weeding, we do a lot of hand weeding, even though we try to do other things like mulching and occasionally spraying for weeds. We still end up doing a lot of hand weeding. But here's our older compost piles that I hope will be ready in the soon in the fall to spread on the fields. So these are from pretty much, I guess, the late spring and beginning of summer. And this over here is our fresh pile. You can clearly see the difference. And we go to a lot of places around town. We go to Washakie, the Union, catering, and then multiple coffee shops and a couple restaurants around town. So we pick up 1 or 2 truckloads of compost a week. During the school year, it's a lot more when there's more people in town. We oftentimes struggle to even keep up with how much compost we pick up. And then we could really use more compost when we go and spread it after it's all decomposed and broken down and ready to spread. It's really a smaller amount than what it looks like to begin with. So we could always use more compost. The struggle is getting that compost picked up twice a week during the school year when it's just students volunteering. That can be really hard to coordinate. So our compost used to be over here, and we made this a new field this year, so it looks a little crazy because it's been run over by the tractor a lot and compacted, and it has a lot of compost tea on it. So we thought it would be a good place to put our brassicas, which sometimes take too long and don't ever produce much in our short growing season. So we had a lot of cabbages here actually that we harvested, and so I think that that's been a good place to put them. That was Ursula's suggestion, to put them where the compost used to be. They might like the extra nutrients, but yeah, I guess as you can see too, one of our biggest pest problems is rodents, so that's why you see all these fences around everything. Those are actually to keep the rabbits and squirrels out. So that's our biggest pest problem here at the farm. It's cold and dry and not a lot of insect pests, but those rodents love our delicious greens, no matter what they are. All right, we can just keep on going down the line here. This is our barn. It was built 5 or 6 years ago, and interestingly enough, the people who built it intended it to be for starting seeds in the spring. And we've tried that before, but it's just not really designed the way it should be if you want to have any kind of plant growth in there. There's not enough light. It's really a great processing barn and a storage barn. We keep stuff in there, and that's where we process our harvest for CSA and market, weigh out and wash and bag everything up in there. So it's great for that, but one of our projects that we are wanting to do in the near future is building our own greenhouse. Right now in the spring we are lucky enough to find space over there at the research center to start our seedlings, but it's never a guarantee and it's sometimes a little difficult to coordinate with people. So it'd be really great to have our own greenhouse here, and that's something we're looking forward to having hopefully in the next year or two. All right, we can come check out some of these high tunnels now. So tomatoes are one of our best crops that we grow, and I guess what I mean by that is people love tomatoes, and you can sell them for a decent amount of money and people always buy them. It's hard to find like locally grown tomatoes in Laramie too, because they're kind of hard to grow here. They like warmer temperatures, which is why we have them in the hoop house. So everything that we have in these hoop houses was selected because we didn't think it would be worth growing outside of a hoop house. So basically we reserve the space in the hoop houses for those crops that we want to grow in here that wouldn't grow in the field. So our tomatoes aren't as productive as they were last year, and I don't know if that's just because I'm not as passionate about tomatoes as Shannon was. But either way, we're working on it. They're starting to pick up late as usual. But yeah, we've also got nasturtiums growing in here, which are edible flowers, and if you want to try one, you're welcome to. Just be careful because the earwigs like to go in there, and make sure you shake it out. But they're good and spicy, and you're welcome to try them.
What kind of flowers is this?
They're called nasturtiums.
Oh.
And they volunteered back up in here. We grew them right here last year, and they just kind of popped back up this year. But whew, yeah, they're a little spicy. And they grow well in low fertility soils.
Can you add them to different dishes?
Yeah, usually we throw them in a salad mix.
Well, since I got all that salad.
Yeah, feel free to harvest some if you'd like to take some home. They're really exploding right now. They're
cinnamon is what I've experienced. I mean, is that common? Like a cinnamon?
No.
It tastes pretty spicy to me, like
I'm tasting
almost
cinnamon.
like a strong mustard
I'm
green
tasting
to me.
cinnamon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. We also have some really
Mustard,
yummy
you
mustard
thinking?
greens grown in here and some other random things. I love the things that pop up year to year because our compost, as we spread it around, puts random seeds everywhere, and you never know where you're going to find a little tomato or a squash growing. I accidentally planted those summer squash inside the high tunnel, and I thought they were cucumbers, so I didn't mean to do that. Summer squash is something I would normally just plant outside, and it does fine. But the ones in the high tunnel are about twice as big as the ones outside. So I think generally in a climate like this where it's borderline too cold to grow a lot of things, cover, especially at night, helps pretty much anything. If you're worried about it, giving it more heat and more shelter. Even like blocking the wind, like I planted, here's one of my pumpkin patches, so every year I try to rotate. So last year pumpkins were over there in that field, which is a lot more open, especially because the wind generally blows kind of from the southwest. But these have done really well, and I think it's partially A, because of this mulch, but B, because of the shelter they're getting from these high tunnels. And just little things like that, like the farm is at a slope. So we had squash up there and pumpkins down there, which are both really sensitive to frost. and we got some of those really late frost in the summer last year in June, and some of the ones down there got a little damaged, but the ones up here seemed a little bit better because they were up a little bit higher and that cool air sunk down probably. So I don't know, I think that where you're growing stuff really can affect them a lot based on the wind, the cold, how much shelter, how much sun, all those different factors. But these high tunnels are like magical. You can grow so much stuff you wouldn't normally grow. So yeah, we've got several pumpkin and squash patches in between these high tunnels, and one of the other places where we sell our produce, we actually have quite a few different brewers who we sell produce to. Altitude Brewery makes a pumpkin ale out of our pumpkins every year, and we're back on board with that. They did a smaller batch last year, but they want to make a big batch this year, so you can look forward to that in the fall, and that's why we have so many pumpkins growing. And we also sell beets, rhubarb, and carrots to the Great Untamed. It's a winery and meadery in town, so I think it's kind of funny. You can eat the veggies fresh or you can ferment them, whatever, but it's great to have someone who comes back to us year to year wanting to buy vegetables in large quantities. That really helps us. It's good to have a place to sell it to because we can produce a lot here, but we only sell at a very small market and a small CSA, so. And we also have limited labor. It's like kind of our limiting factor, but yeah, we've got beets up here. We've got summer squash here, which are looking really good this year. I'm really excited about them. They're almost ready. We started these squash, pumpkins, all these really long season crops. We started in March indoors, so they've been a long time coming. They're almost ready, finally. Time for the last few markets. So we've got different things in our high tunnels. We've got peppers over there. So we've got jalapenos and Hungarian wax peppers and a couple other types of peppers in there. And then here's some of our summer squash in these two fields. In here we've got some rogue tomatoes and also eggplants, which are kind of neat. We grew them last year and actually were successful at growing them, which we weren't sure because they, again, like the peppers, like a really hot environment, but people really liked them at market and CSA, so we wanted to do them again. We have a couple different varieties, and they're just starting to get little fruits on them, so if you want to check those out, they're kind of fun.
I cooked some up last year and it was really good. It was different.
Yeah.
I forget what you sold me. That was,
the fairy tale eggplant, probably. Was it light purple?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. We have some of those again this
Yeah.
year. They're just starting to get fruit.
Yeah.
In here we've got some tomatillos and melons, which we also tried last year, and believe it or not, we grew a watermelon that was this big, a 5-pound watermelon, and a tiny cantaloupe that was this big, and they were delicious. They just didn't get very large, so we decided it wasn't worth growing a lot of them, but we did grow a few just for fun. We've got some cucumbers and squash in there, and also a ton of basil on this side. I have like 10 different varieties of basil because I absolutely love basil. But yeah, basil is another one of those ones where they need warmth at night, so that's why we keep them in our high tunnel. And so we've got another field up here with a couple different things growing. We had a really great carrot crop that we're pretty much done with. It's in that kind of weedy area back there, but you'd be surprised you can grow a mean carrot in Laramie. Things like carrots, beets, things that are in the ground, turnips, those things are all pretty hardy, it seems like. So we like to stick to what we know grows well here, which is surprisingly a lot of things, as long as you put them in the right place. And water them, yeah. We use this, you can see the drip irrigation. We use the same drip irrigation that Chris uses on his apples everywhere in the farm because it's efficient, and once you get it set up, it's easy. Much easier than even setting up sprinklers or anything like that. So yeah, our irrigation project was a big grunt this spring, but now that it's set up, it's nice, and hopefully it'll last a couple years. Another interesting thing that we have here, you can see we've got a couple little garden plots here, and these are the student gardens. So this is the second year that we've had a student garden program, and students can sign up and get a free garden plot. It's all theirs, they can do whatever they want. As you can see, some people maybe forgot that they signed up, and other people did really well, like Julia, who's got those beautiful flowers growing over there. And yeah, the students are asked to do about 6 hours of volunteer work, So we get a couple hours of volunteer work and they get a garden plot and they can grow themselves some fresh produce if they're here over the summer. So we have, I believe it's 16 garden plots available, and the first 2 years we've had them all booked up. So we're excited that the students are excited to be here in the summer. We get a lot of international students in the summer, which is really cool to see what different people like to grow and what different people like to try in their gardens. So, seen some interesting trellising structures.